Welcome to A Single Light. Isaac Asimov said, "There is a single light of science, and to brighten it anywhere is to brighten it everywhere." Join Jennifer and Maddy as they shine that light on the wonders of the universe. Whether you're a lifelong science enthusiast or just love learning something new, you're in the right place.
Today I have the great honor, along with Maddy, to interview senior astronomer Seth Shostak. I've been listening to Seth on his science podcast, Big Picture Science, for over 15 years. He works for the SETI Institute, whose mission, according to their website, is to lead humanity's quest to understand the origins and prevalence of life and intelligence in the universe and share that knowledge with the world. Along with working at SETI to find signs of intelligent life, Seth strives to improve the intelligence of humanity too. He has written 4 books, published over 300 articles, and given hundreds of interviews, sharing his knowledge of space and astrobiology. And now he gets to share his knowledge with our listeners. I, for one, can't wait.
Hey everyone, welcome back. It's the day that Jen has starred on her calendar, and I do mean that. There are glittery stars everywhere, and hearts. Seth Shostak is here with us today, and we're very glad to have him on.
Yes, thank you, Seth.
It's a pleasure to be here, at least so far. So
that can change. We'll see what happens.
Don't ask me anything hard, yeah.
So how long have you been studying astrobiology, and when did you join SETI?
Well, I mean, I studied physics and astronomy in school, and my graduate degree, which was in astronomy, involved studying galaxies. But I soon had read when I was doing that about some experiments where people tried to eavesdrop on aliens by tuning into radio signals. So that sounded like an interesting thing to do, and I began to try it myself, only occasionally, but eventually I took a job at the Institute here in when was that? It was about the year 2000, maybe a little later.
Oh, that's fun. What kind of different science disciplines are in SETI exactly?
Well, SETI is basically radio astronomy, actually, with some modifications to the kind of equipment that's being used. So, anything that's relevant to radio astronomy is relevant to SETI. So it's mostly, obviously electronic engineering, astronomy, computer science, all those sorts of things. As you would expect, no surprises there.
Ooh, no surprises on that end. That makes a lot of sense. I was really hoping you had 1 or 2 just random people who would tell you what kind of star signs you were all living under. Just walk through the buildings, go, all right, here are your astro signs for the week. Don't mess anything up.
Yeah, they never did that. Unfortunately, they just said sit
Darn
here,
it.
and that was it.
Only Maddy would want an astrologist to join the group.
An astrologer?
I think it would be great emotional support moments. Something to laugh about before you get busy with stuff.
Yeah, maybe, but probably not. I mean, sometimes people confuse what I do with astrology, and they'll tell me what month they were born or something like that. But of course, that doesn't help them or me very much because, the month you were born, I suspect, doesn't have a lot to do with your personality or your future.
No, it's interesting, though, to look at. So a lot of movies and the public refer to extraterrestrial life as aliens. Does SETI call them something different, or is aliens like the broad term in general?
I think if we're speaking informally, we would use the term aliens. I certainly do. And in writing, too. We had a boss for a while when we were a NASA project who insisted that we refer to it as, extraterrestrial intelligence or something like that. But that's a very cumbersome term. And just about everybody immediately went back to alien. And besides, if you're being interviewed by, the media or whatever, the extraterrestrial intelligence, I mean, that's too much Greek and Latin, too many syllables. So, we just use alien.
Okay.
There we have it. The simpler term is sometimes the better term.
Yes. My problem has always been, as Maddie and I have been doing this, the minute we start talking about aliens, we start thinking of aliens in the movies. And I keep going, no, I'm talking about real aliens. And it gets confusing sometimes for us.
Well, I mean, when you ask people what aliens look like or how they might behave or are they dangerous or whatever, they're going to tell you what they've seen in the movies or on television. That's perfectly natural. May have nothing to do with actual aliens, but we don't know. So it's just as good as anything else.
Very true. So you were saying that SETI is radio astronomy. But I was looking on the
Yes.
website and it looks like some other parts of astrobiology have joined SETI. Is that correct?
Well, there are two aspects of that. To begin with, there's the search for the aliens, and that's mostly using radio antennas, the techniques of radio astronomy, but not exclusively. We also look for flashing laser lights or something like that. So that's a slightly different set of equipment that you use for that. Big optical telescopes, mirror and lens telescopes with, fast sensors on the back, photomultiplier tubes, whatever. So, but that's basically the same thing. You're looking for signals that some society might be broadcasting into space. But the other kind of work that the SETI Institute does is what's called astrobiology. They're interested in, how does life get started? How long would it last? Where can we find it? That sort of thing. And for most of the people who do that kind of work, they don't really care whether it's little green guys or whether it's, I don't know, little green plants, right? I mean, if you were to find plants in space, it might not excite you very much, but it would show you at least that there's life out there. So it's very important.
Sure, absolutely. So, is the hunt for exoplanets part of all of that?
Well, it is. In fact, there are people who work at the SETI Institute who indeed look for exoplanets, planets around other stars, because, after all, if there are no planets around other stars, or if there are very few of them, something that many scientists believed not so long ago, then you're not going to find any aliens either. There's no real estate for them to call home. So the search for exoplanets is certainly important. In fact, there's a story that's been out this week about some exoplanet. I don't know how far away it is, 49, 50 light years away, but anyhow, relatively close, that might be something like the Earth, with oceans and atmosphere and so forth. So, and that would be an obvious place to point our antennas and see if anybody's calling out.
There you go. Well, that's what I found actually interesting. In our first session we're doing astrobiology and we're doing 10 sessions. That's kind of the way we're set up. And the first one, I talked about exoplanets and the first one being found in 1992, but yet SETI and the search for extraterrestrial intelligence has been around since 1960. So you guys were looking for a signal before anybody even knew there might be planets out there that might be sending the signal?
Yes, that's right. I mean, in a way, maybe that's like, I don't know, sailing the South Pacific in 1700. You don't have very good maps of the place, but there might be some islands out there where, there's some buried treasure. Who knows what? There might be something of value there. So, you go anyhow. I mean, that's what Captain Jim Cook did, right? The British Admiralty was willing to give him the money so he could take some or build some ships. Actually, I think he just converted some ships, but whatever. And just sail the South Pacific and map it all, right? Looking for whatever he found. And, he found interesting things like Hawaii, for example. So that's kind of the nature of SETI, at least as it's been conducted so far.
Okay. Does the existence of exoplanets and the fact that more and more are being sent every day kind of, I don't know, make you feel like the odds of finding intelligent life are better than they were before we knew there were exoplanets?
Well, it's certainly encouraging, and in the sense that it could have turned out the other way. I mean, it could have been that when we looked for exoplanets, we didn't find any, or we found out only one in a gazillion stars had exoplanets, and that would really dampen our enthusiasm, I think. But it hasn't turned out that way. It's been quite the opposite. The current estimates are something like one in every eight sun-like stars. Well, no. Yeah, something like a third of all sun-like stars has a planet sort of like the Earth, or at least the same size as the Earth, maybe with atmospheres and water, and all that sort of thing. So, given that there are tens, hundreds of billions of star systems just in our galaxy, that means that there's maybe a whole lot of life out there, and maybe most of it's not very interesting, sort of like, my neighborhood here, but it doesn't mean that it's uninteresting, from the standpoint of life in space. There could be a lot of that.
Right. And I have to admit that I'm not too picky about what the life is like. I just would love for us to find life, whether it's a microbe or super intelligent. I'm like, hey, it's all good with me. So, all right, I'm
Yeah, and
gonna
I can
go.
read your mind. You're hoping for space tardigrades.
Oh my
Space
gosh.
tardigrades.
There was just an
Yes.
article that I got sent today where they found these oil shales, and inside the oil shales, there were all these tardigrades where they did not expect
Yeah.
to find tardigrades, and I got all excited. I admit
Yeah,
tardigrades.
tardigrades are kind of cute, right?
Yes, they are.
Kinda like water bears, I think they're called. Yeah,
Yes.
they're cute. Although
Yes.
they're not cuddly, I have to say.
It would be hard to cuddle something that small, but no, in the
Well,
fact that they're basically, or like related to spiders and arachnids and stuff, I would get a little creeped out if they were bigger than they actually are. So, Maddie, do you want to move on to the next section? Oh, actually, I have one more question in my section.
I was about to say.
I'm
yeah.
sorry. All right, so the question is, what is a fun fact about SETI that people may not know?
what is a fun fact? Well, I'm just thinking about what is fun. Um, well, I think many people would be surprised by how small the experiment is. I mean, if you go to the SETI Institute, and I just got back from there a couple of minutes ago. If you go down there and you say, show us the people that are doing SETI work, there would be 0 or 1 or 2 people, right? Very few, even though the total number of scientists that work for the Institute is on the order of 115, 120. But most of them are doing astrobiology. In other words, they're interested in life. And that could be, microbial life on Mars or whatever. There's the origins of life and so forth. And not necessarily how many aliens there are out there. So to me, I think the most surprising thing for most people would be that we haven't found anything. We don't know how to find anything, or maybe we do know, but we haven't done it yet. And the second thing is, I think surveys have shown that roughly a third of all Americans, at least, believe that there's life out there, intelligent life out there, and some of it has come to Earth, to abduct people and haul them out of their bedrooms for those unsavory experiments.
Yes, Area 51 and all that fun stuff.
Yep, Area 51, I think it's ripe for development.
Okay, well, you know what?
Development project.
Can I jump ahead, Maddie, to the question? Okay, so that was actually one of our questions, only because I read your book and I know the answer, but I just wanted you to put it on our podcast. And that was, do you think Earth has ever been visited by aliens of any type?
Yeah, well, it's hard to tell. I mean, you can't say with absolute certainty. I don't think so, but, maybe some aliens came to Earth, I don't know, during the Mesozoic era, say 70 million years ago, took photos of a couple of dinosaurs and then got in their spacecraft and left. I mean, you wouldn't know, right? There's no evidence, and the dinos who might be able to tell you are long gone. So, you can't say for certainty. If they had left something, as happens sometimes in the movies, some sort of artifact, some big thing that we dig up, then you'd say, okay, now I know that they were here. But lacking that, it's hard to say.
So, all right. But you personally don't think, at least in modern times, that we have aliens walking around among us or doing a flyby?
Not in the last, couple of hundred years. No, because that would be extraordinarily well documented. And, a lot of Americans think it would be covered up by the government. But, Americans like to believe in conspiracies. And I've worked for the federal government, and I can tell you that the idea that they could conspire to hide that kind of info just strikes me as, well, astounding.
Right. Okay. I do agree with you, but I also have a lot of friends who will tell me their I saw a UFO or AUP or whatever we call them nowadays story, so anyway, and I'm always like, well, did you really? But I try not to argue with my friends, so whatever they think.
Little doubt that, yeah, they've probably seen something.
Right.
The question is, how do they know it's alien?
Right. Exactly.
I've seen a flying silver disc. It was a frisbee, It hit me in the face.
There you go.
But I can claim I've seen a flying silver disc.
A frisbee. Well, yeah, I don't know that the aliens use frisbees much, but who knows? Maybe they do.
How can we know?
And thank you everyone else for listening in. And I hope you guys have a lovely day. And float on by to another episode if you haven't seen our previous ones. Or float towards the next session. We'll see you guys then. Bye-bye.